In the shadowed corridors of Renaissance Italy, where poison was as common as wine and betrayal as frequent as morning prayer, there lived a man whose name would become synonymous with the ruthless pursuit of power. Niccolò Machiavelli, exiled from his beloved Florence, sat in his modest estate contemplating the nature of human ambition, the mechanics of control, and the delicate art of maintaining authority in a world where weakness invited destruction. The lessons he would pen in The Prince were not born from abstract philosophy but from witnessing firsthand the rise and fall of leaders, the machinations of those who survived, and the fatal mistakes of those who perished. What emerges from his observations is not merely a manual for political dominance, but a comprehensive understanding of how to navigate any competitive environment with the deadly precision of a master strategist while maintaining the serene composure that marks true power. The modern world, despite its technological advancement and supposed civilization, operates on principles that would be entirely familiar to a 16th-century Italian prince. Corporate boardrooms echo with the same power struggles that once filled papal chambers. Social dynamics follow patterns that Machiavelli mapped with surgical precision. The acquisition and maintenance of influence, whether in business, relationships, or personal development, requires the same fundamental understanding of human nature that enabled some to rise to greatness while others fell into obscurity. To become truly effective in this eternal game requires cultivating three essential qualities that work in perfect harmony: serenity that allows for clear thinking under pressure, deadliness that ensures decisive action when necessary, and an unstoppable momentum that compounds advantages over time. These are not merely personality traits to be admired from a distance, but practical capabilities that can be developed through understanding and application of timeless principles. The serenity comes from recognizing that emotions, while natural, are tools to be managed rather than masters to be obeyed. The deadliness emerges from the willingness to act decisively when action is required, cutting through hesitation and half measures that characterize the weak. The unstoppable nature develops from understanding how to build systems and relationships that create lasting advantage, making one's position increasingly secure over time. What follows is not a mere academic exercise in historical analysis, but a practical guide drawn from the deepest wells of strategic wisdom. Each principle has been tested in the crucible of real-world application, each strategy proven effective across centuries of human competition. The goal is not to create monsters, but to forge individuals capable of achieving their objectives while maintaining their integrity, protecting what they value, and building something lasting in a world that rewards strength and punishes weakness. Part 1: The foundation of serene power. The greatest leaders in history shared a common characteristic that separated them from pretenders and wannabes: they possessed an inner stillness that allowed them to think clearly when others were consumed by panic, anger, or desperate hope. This quality, which we might call serene power, is not the absence of emotion but rather the mastery of it. It represents the ability to remain centered and focused regardless of external circumstances, maintaining clarity of thought and purpose even when the world seems to be collapsing around you. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his private journals while campaigning on the Germanic frontier, captured this essence when he noted that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The emperor understood that most of our torment comes not from external events themselves but from our reactions to those events. A leader who can maintain perspective, who can see beyond the immediate crisis to the larger patterns at play, possesses an almost supernatural advantage over those caught up in the emotional turbulence of the moment. This serenity is not passivity. It is not the withdrawal of a monk or the detachment of someone who no longer cares about outcomes. Rather, it is the controlled intensity of a master surgeon performing a complex operation, fully engaged yet emotionally regulated, capable of making precise decisions under extreme pressure. It combines the focused attention of a chess grandmaster with the calm confidence of someone who understands that panic clouds judgment and hasty action often creates more problems than it solves. The development of this quality begins with understanding the relationship between perception and reality. Most people live in a state of constant reaction, their emotional state determined by whatever is happening to them at the moment. They are happy when things go well, angry when faced with obstacles, fearful when confronted with uncertainty. This reactive mode of existence makes them predictable and, therefore, exploitable by those who understand how to trigger specific emotional responses. The strategic mind operates differently. It recognizes that external events are largely beyond our control, but our responses to those events are entirely within our domain. This insight, properly understood and applied, becomes the foundation of unshakable inner strength. When you truly grasp that your emotional state is your choice rather than the inevitable result of circumstances, you gain the ability to remain calm and focused regardless of what is happening around you. This internal regulation manifests in several practical ways. First, it allows for better decision-making because emotions, while useful as information, are terrible masters when it comes to strategic thinking. Fear makes us too conservative, anger makes us too aggressive, hope makes us too optimistic, and despair makes us surrender prematurely. A regulated emotional state allows us to consider options objectively, weighing probabilities and consequences without the distortion that comes from being in the grip of powerful feelings. Second, emotional regulation has a profound effect on how others perceive and respond to us. People are naturally drawn to those who seem calm and in control, especially during turbulent times. Conversely, they lose confidence in leaders who seem panicked, angry, or overwhelmed. The ability to project calm confidence even in difficult circumstances creates a gravitational pull that attracts allies and intimidates potential opponents. The cultivation of serenity requires daily practice in observing and regulating one's emotional responses. This is not about suppression, which tends to create pressure that eventually explodes, but rather about creating space between stimulus and response. When something happens that would normally trigger an automatic emotional reaction, the trained mind pauses, observes the impulse, and chooses how to respond based on strategic considerations rather than immediate feelings. This practice can be developed through various methods. Meditation, properly understood, is not mystical nonsense but practical training in attention regulation. The ability to focus your mind where you want it, when you want it there, for as long as you want it there, is perhaps the most fundamental skill for strategic success. Physical training that pushes you beyond your comfort zone while requiring you to maintain mental clarity teaches the same essential skill in a different context. The study of history, particularly the biographies of great leaders, provides countless examples of how serene power manifests under pressure. Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, Winston Churchill during the Blitz, or Steve Jobs during Apple's darkest days all demonstrated this quality of remaining centered and focused while everything around them seemed to be falling apart. They were not immune to stress or fear, but they had learned to function effectively despite these natural human responses. Perhaps most importantly, the development of serenity requires accepting responsibility for outcomes while releasing attachment to things beyond your control. This paradox, caring deeply about results while remaining detached from emotional investment in specific outcomes, allows for maximum effort combined with emotional resilience when things do not go according to plan. The strategic mind understands that setbacks are information rather than verdicts, that temporary defeats often contain the seeds of ultimate victory, and that maintaining long-term perspective is more important than reacting to short-term fluctuations. This understanding creates a foundation of inner strength that cannot be shaken by external circumstances, no matter how challenging they might appear. When serenity is properly established, it creates the optimal mental state for developing the second essential quality, the capacity for deadly effectiveness when action is required. The calm mind can assess situations more accurately, identify the most efficient course of action, and execute decisions with precision and timing that leaves opponents no opportunity to respond effectively. Part 2. The precision of strategic deadliness. True deadliness is not about aggression, violence, or causing unnecessary harm. It is about the capacity to act with complete decisiveness when action is required, striking at the exact moment and in the precise manner that will achieve your objectives with minimal waste of energy or resources. It represents the culmination of strategic thinking, the ability to identify the critical point where applied pressure will achieve maximum results, and then applying that pressure with surgical precision. The master strategist resembles a skilled surgeon more than a battlefield warrior. Every cut is deliberate, calculated to achieve a specific result with minimal damage to surrounding tissue. There is no wasted motion, no hesitation at the critical moment, no second guessing once the decision has been made. This quality of decisive action, when combined with the serene clarity of mind we have discussed, becomes virtually unstoppable because it operates with an efficiency that overwhelmed opponents cannot match. Historical examples of this principle in action reveal its power across different contexts and time periods. When Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, he did so not in a fit of passionate rebellion but after careful calculation of the alternatives available to him. He understood that returning to Rome without his legions meant political destruction and likely death, while crossing with his army meant civil war but offered the possibility of ultimate victory. Once he made the decision, he acted with complete commitment, moving so quickly that his opponents had no time to organize effective resistance. Similarly, when Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, he demonstrated the same quality of strategic deadliness by immediately cutting dozens of products and focusing the company's resources on a few key areas. This decision, while painful in the short term, eliminated distractions and allowed Apple to achieve breakthrough innovations that would not have been possible with resources scattered across too many projects. The decisiveness of the action, and the speed with which it was implemented, prevented internal resistance from organizing effectively. The development of strategic deadliness begins with understanding the relationship between preparation and opportunity. Most people fail to act decisively when opportunities present themselves because they have not done the mental and practical preparation necessary to recognize and seize those moments. They spend their time reacting to events rather than positioning themselves to take advantage of favorable circumstances when they arise. The strategic mind operates differently. It constantly analyzes the environment for potential opportunities and threats, developing contingency plans for various scenarios before they occur. This preparation creates the foundation for rapid, decisive action when the moment is right. Like a chess master who has studied thousands of games and recognizes patterns instantly, the prepared strategist can identify opportunities and implement responses faster than unprepared competitors. This preparation involves several elements. First, there must be clear objectives. You cannot act decisively if you do not know what you are trying to achieve. These objectives must be specific enough to guide decision-making but flexible enough to allow for tactical adjustments as circumstances change. The clarity of purpose provides the framework within which decisive action becomes possible. Second, there must be an accurate assessment of available resources and constraints. Deadliness requires understanding exactly what tools are at your disposal and what limitations you face. This assessment must be brutally honest, neither overestimating your capabilities nor underestimating the challenges you face. Self-deception in this area leads to strategies that cannot be executed effectively, resulting in failure despite decisive action. Third, there must be careful analysis of the competitive environment. This includes understanding the motivations, capabilities, and likely responses of other players in the situation. The most effective strategies take advantage of competitors' weaknesses while minimizing their ability to exploit your own vulnerabilities. This analysis must be ongoing, as circumstances change and new information becomes available. Perhaps most critically, the development of deadliness requires overcoming the natural human tendency toward hesitation and second-guessing. Most people, when faced with important decisions, become paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes. They seek additional information, consult more advisors, and delay action until the optimal moment has passed. This hesitation is often rationalized as prudence, but it frequently results in missed opportunities and gradual loss of competitive position. The strategic mind understands that waiting for perfect information or ideal circumstances is usually a formula for inaction. In competitive environments, the advantage often goes to those who can make good decisions quickly rather than perfect decisions slowly. The goal is not to eliminate risk, which is impossible, but to take calculated risks at the optimal time with maximum preparation. This requires developing comfort with uncertainty and the ability to make decisions with incomplete information. The skilled strategist learns to distinguish between decisions that require extensive analysis and those where quick action is more important than perfect analysis. They understand that in many situations, the cost of delay exceeds the benefit of additional information. The timing of action is perhaps the most critical element of strategic deadliness. Even the right action taken at the wrong time can fail, while a suboptimal action taken at the perfect moment can succeed beyond expectations. This timing sense develops through experience and careful observation of patterns in your particular environment. Great strategists develop an intuitive feel for when circumstances are ripe for action. They learn to recognize the subtle signs that indicate when their opponents are vulnerable, when their own position is strongest, or when external conditions favor their particular approach. This timing sense cannot be reduced to simple formulas but emerges from deep understanding of the dynamics at play in their specific situation. When the moment for action arrives, deadliness manifests as complete commitment to the chosen course. There is no holding back, no half measures, no keeping options open for retreat. This total commitment often makes the difference between success and failure because it mobilizes maximum resources and energy toward the objective while denying opponents the opportunity to mount effective resistance. However, this commitment must be balanced with the flexibility to adjust tactics as circumstances change. The objective remains constant, but the specific methods for achieving it may need to evolve based on new information or changing conditions. The deadly strategist maintains firm commitment to the goal while remaining adaptable in approach. The psychological impact of decisive action cannot be underestimated. When someone acts with complete clarity and commitment, it often demoralizes opponents and inspires allies. People naturally respect and follow those who seem to know what they are doing and are willing to act on their convictions. This psychological advantage often proves as important as any tactical advantage gained through the action itself. The cultivation of deadliness also requires developing the ability to cut losses quickly when strategies are not working. Many otherwise capable people destroy themselves by continuing to pursue failed approaches long after it has become clear that a change in direction is necessary. Pride, stubbornness, and the sunk cost fallacy prevent them from making necessary adjustments. The deadly strategist monitors results continuously and adjusts course when evidence indicates that current approaches are not working. This requires emotional detachment from specific strategies and tactics. They are tools to be used or discarded based on their effectiveness, not extensions of one's identity to be defended regardless of results. When serenity provides the foundation and deadliness provides the cutting edge, the stage is set for developing the third essential quality, the unstoppable momentum that compounds advantages over time and creates lasting success. Part 3, The Architecture of Unstoppable Momentum. The final element in the trinity of strategic mastery transcends individual actions or decisions, encompassing the creation of systems and relationships that generate compound advantages over time. This is the difference between tactical success and strategic dominance, between winning individual battles and winning the war. The unstoppable leader understands that true power lies not in any single achievement but in building momentum that feeds on itself, creating a cycle of increasing strength and influence that becomes progressively more difficult for opponents to counter. This momentum emerges from understanding how small advantages, properly leveraged, can create larger advantages, which in turn create even greater opportunities for advancement. It requires thinking in terms of systems rather than events, processes rather than outcomes, and long-term positioning rather than short-term gains. The master strategist operates like a patient investor, accumulating assets and compound returns that eventually create an insurmountable competitive position. The foundation of unstoppable momentum lies in understanding what Machiavelli called the relationship between virtue and fortune. Fortune represents the external circumstances beyond our control, market conditions, political changes, technological developments, or the actions of competitors. Virtue represents our ability to prepare for and respond effectively to whatever fortune may bring. The unstoppable strategist seeks to minimize dependence on favorable fortune while maximizing ability to exploit opportunities and weather setbacks regardless of external conditions. This begins with building what modern strategists might call anti-fragility, the ability not merely to survive stress and volatility but to grow stronger from it. While fragile systems break under pressure and resilient systems return to their original state, anti-fragile systems actually improve when subjected to stress within certain limits. The unstoppable leader creates personal and professional systems that thrive on challenges and setbacks rather than being diminished by them. The development of such systems requires thinking carefully about which elements of your position should be diversified for stability and which should be concentrated for maximum impact. A diversified investment portfolio provides stability, but a concentrated focus on developing unique capabilities creates competitive advantage. The key is understanding which areas of your life and work require which approach. Personal capabilities should be developed with careful attention to creating multiplicative rather than merely additive effects. Learning to communicate effectively, for example, does not just make you better at communication, it amplifies every other skill you possess by allowing you to share knowledge, influence others, and build relationships more effectively. Similarly, developing emotional regulation does not just make you calmer, it improves decision-making, leadership effectiveness, and the ability to maintain focus during challenging periods. The unstoppable strategist seeks to identify and develop these leverage points where improvement in one area creates disproportionate advantages across multiple areas. This requires understanding the interconnected nature of different skills and capabilities, recognizing that mastery emerges from developing complementary strengths rather than trying to be adequate at everything. Professional positioning follows similar principles. Rather than competing directly with established players on their terms, the unstoppable strategist seeks to create new categories where they can establish dominant positions. This might involve combining existing elements in novel ways, serving underserved market segments, or developing capabilities that make traditional competitive advantages irrelevant. The process of building momentum requires careful attention to feedback loops and compound effects. Every action should be evaluated not just for its immediate results but for how it positions you for future opportunities. Every relationship should be developed not just for its current value but for its potential to open new doors or provide support during challenging times. Every skill should be acquired not just for its standalone utility but for how it complements and enhances other capabilities. Perhaps most importantly, the creation of unstoppable momentum requires understanding how to build and leverage networks of relationships. No one achieves lasting success in isolation. The most effective leaders understand that their success depends on their ability to create value for others and to position themselves as essential nodes in networks of mutually beneficial relationships. This networking is not the superficial relationship building that many people associate with the term, but rather the deep cultivation of relationships based on genuine value creation and mutual respect. The unstoppable strategist becomes known as someone who can be trusted to deliver results, who maintains confidentiality when required, and who looks for ways to help others achieve their objectives even when there is no immediate benefit. Such relationships create multiple forms of value. They provide access to information that might not be available through public channels. They offer opportunities for collaboration that can achieve results impossible for individuals working alone. They create support systems that provide assistance during difficult periods. Perhaps most importantly, they establish reputation and credibility that open doors to new opportunities. The cultivation of these relationships requires long-term thinking and genuine commitment to creating value for others. It cannot be approached as a transactional activity where you only invest in relationships when you need something. Instead, it requires consistently looking for ways to be helpful, sharing information and opportunities when appropriate, and building a reputation as someone who contributes more to relationships than they extract from them. The unstoppable strategist also understands the importance of creating institutional advantages wherever possible. This might involve establishing systems and processes that create efficiency advantages over competitors, developing intellectual property that provides legal protection for innovations, or building organizational cultures that attract and retain superior talent. These institutional advantages are particularly powerful because they operate independently of individual effort or charisma. Once established, they continue to provide benefits even when attention is focused elsewhere. They create barriers to entry that make it difficult for competitors to replicate your advantages, and they provide platforms for launching new initiatives with higher probability of success. The process of building momentum also requires careful attention to timing and sequencing. Not all opportunities are created equal, and pursuing the wrong opportunity at the wrong time can dissipate momentum rather than building it. The unstoppable strategist learns to distinguish between opportunities that advance long-term objectives and distractions that might provide short-term benefits but interfere with more important goals. This discernment develops through experience and reflection, but it can be accelerated by maintaining clear criteria for evaluating opportunities. These criteria should include alignment with long-term objectives, probability of success given available resources, potential for creating compound advantages, and opportunity costs compared to alternative uses of time and energy. The maintenance of momentum requires constant vigilance against the natural entropy that affects all systems over time. Success can breed complacency, leading to reduced effort and attention to the fundamentals that created the success in the first place. Rapid growth can create complexity that reduces efficiency and effectiveness. External changes can make previously successful strategies obsolete. The unstoppable strategist develops systems for monitoring performance and identifying early warning signs of problems before they become crises. This includes both quantitative metrics that track key performance indicators and qualitative assessments of factors that might not show up in numbers until problems are well advanced. Perhaps most importantly, building unstoppable momentum requires maintaining the humility to continue learning and adapting even after achieving significant success. The strategies and tactics that work in one situation or time period may not be effective in different circumstances. The capabilities that create advantages at one level of operation may be insufficient at higher levels. The truly unstoppable leader remains a student throughout their career, constantly seeking new knowledge, testing new approaches, and refining their understanding of what works and what does not. They understand that mastery is not a destination but a continuous process of improvement and adaptation. This commitment to continued learning and growth ensures that momentum is maintained even as external circumstances change. It provides the flexibility to adjust strategies while maintaining focus on fundamental objectives. It creates the curiosity and openness necessary to identify new opportunities as they emerge. When all three elements, serene power, strategic deadliness, and unstoppable momentum, are developed and integrated, they create a formidable combination that can achieve extraordinary results in virtually any competitive environment. The serene mind provides the clarity necessary for accurate assessment and wise decision-making. The deadly execution ensures that decisions are implemented with maximum effectiveness. The unstoppable momentum compounds these advantages over time, creating lasting success that transcends any individual achievement. The individual who masters these principles becomes capable of achieving objectives that others consider impossible, not through superhuman abilities or extraordinary luck, but through the systematic application of timeless strategic principles. They develop the capacity to remain calm under pressure while acting decisively when action is required, building advantages that accumulate over time into positions of unassailable strength. This mastery does not require abandoning ethical principles or treating others poorly. Indeed, the most successful long-term strategists understand that sustainable success depends on building trust, creating value for others, and maintaining integrity even when shortcuts might provide temporary advantages. The principles of strategic mastery are tools that can be applied toward any objective, but they are most powerful when employed in service of worthy goals that create value beyond mere personal advancement. The path to developing these capabilities requires patience, discipline, and commitment to continuous improvement. It demands honest self-assessment, willingness to learn from failures, and the courage to act decisively when preparation meets opportunity. But, for those who commit to this development, the rewards extend far beyond professional success to include the deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you can handle whatever challenges life presents while building something meaningful that will endure beyond your own involvement. In the end, the lessons of Machiavelli and other great strategic thinkers throughout history remain as relevant today as they were when first written. Human nature has not changed significantly over the centuries, and the fundamental dynamics of competition, cooperation, and influence operate according to principles that transcend specific technologies or cultural contexts. Understanding and applying these principles provides a significant advantage in any endeavor requiring strategic thinking and effective execution. The choice to develop these capabilities ultimately rests with each individual. The principles are available to anyone willing to study and apply them, but they require discipline and commitment that many people are unwilling to provide. For those who choose to pursue mastery, however, the result is a level of personal effectiveness and professional capability that opens possibilities that others never even consider. The path forward begins with a single decision: the commitment to approach challenges strategically rather than reactively, to develop capabilities systematically rather than haphazardly, and to build lasting advantages rather than seeking only immediate gratification. This decision, properly implemented over time, leads inevitably toward the mastery of serenity, deadliness, and unstoppable momentum that characterizes true strategic excellence.